Welcome to the Old Time Radio Westerns. I'm your host, Andrew Rhynes, and let's get into this episode. This episode is going to be The Lone Ranger. Original air date is January 29th, 1945, and the title is The Deacon Agrees.
Horse with the speed of light, a cloud of dust, and a hearty "Hi-Yo Silver!" The Lone Ranger. With his faithful Indian companion Tonto, the masked rider of the plains led the fight for law and order in the early western United States. The stories of his strength and courage, his daring and resourcefulness have come down to us through the generations. And nowhere in the pages of history can one find a greater champion of justice. Return with us now to those thrilling days of yesteryear. Out of the past and the thundering hoofbeats of the great horse Silver. The Lone Ranger rides again.
Come on, Silver! Faster, boy, faster! I'll Silver!
The Deacon was mightily displeased. For nearly a month, he'd exerted every effort trying to convince the people of Reed City that they needed him. And the people of Reed City had gone out of their way to make it plain that they wanted no part of the Deacon. It was afternoon, and the Deacon was seated on the veranda of the Reed City Hotel, whittling. Now and then, one of the townspeople walked by, but there was no friendliness in their greetings for the big man.
Howdy, Deacon. Howdy. Nice day.
I beg to differ with you, brother. It is far from being a nice day.
What's that?
It is far from being a nice day.
Sun shining, ain't it?
Yes, the sun is shining, brother. To warm the skins of you sinners.
Well, whatever it's shining for, it suits me. So long, Deacon.
So long, sinner.
What you doing, Deacon?
Whittling, brother. Just whittling.
How's everything coming with the new church? Still figure you got souls to save in Reed City?
You're a cowpuncher, aren't you, friend?
That's right.
You ever get caught in a stampede?
Why, sure. Lots of times.
This business of saving souls is mighty like your job.
Huh?
A bunch of cattle start the stampede, just running hog wild, see? And maybe a big cliff up ahead. Cattle don't know any better. They got a crazy notion to run, so they run. And unless you turn them back, they go piling over the cliff.
I've seen it happen.
So have I, brother. Only lots worse than you've ever seen it, I reckon.
Well, now, I don't know about that.
I do. Because I've watched it happen to people Seen him go piling over that big cliff, brother, piling head first into eternity.
Well, I should have known you was leading up to a sermon. Adios, Deacon.
Adios, sinner. Oh, well, howdy, son.
Hello.
Don't recall seeing you around Reed City before.
I don't live here.
Just as well you don't. I wouldn't want any youngster of mine raised in a place like this.
Well, what's wrong with Reed City?
Oh, everything, son. Gambling, drinking, carousing all day and night, every day and night. I don't know why I don't just stand aside. Let him go over the cliff.
I overheard what you said to that cowpuncher a minute ago. Are you a preacher?
Sort of. Just kind of got a notion in my noodle that the Lord needs a little help now and then in places like Reed City. And I've never thought of anybody else I'd rather be working for. What's your name?
Dan Reed?
Reed, huh? Does that mean you got relations here in Reed City?
No. I'm traveling with some friends of mine. Just came in to get a few supplies at the store, and I saw you sit...
Well, it ain't the Deacon. What are you doing there, Deacon?
Just whittling, brother. Just whittling.
Whittling, huh? Well, what you whittling? Part of the new church?
Brother, you're talking to an unhappy man. A mighty unhappy man.
Huh?
And if you don't want that empty skull of yours cracked like an eggshell, don't you start any joshing remarks about the church I'm figuring to build.
Well, no offense, Deacon. Only...
Yes? Only what, brother?
I was just thinking. Fella as big as you, with all the gumption you got, seems like you'd be, in a job fit for a man your size.
The job I'm in is fit for any man. Any size. And I can whip the one that says different.
Sure you could, but that's just what I was getting at, Deacon. You know, this country needs fighting men.
Oh. Does, eh?
You bet. And with your size and build, man, I bet you could lick your weight in wildcats.
Brother, you have contributed a very elegant thought.
Yeah? What's that, Deacon?
There's a herd of cattle stampeding. They're heading for the cliff, and it's up to me to stop them.
What cattle you talking about? What cliff are they heading for? And what stampede you talking about?
The cattle are right here in Reed City, brother.
Right here? Deacon, you're loco.
The cliff they are about to fall over is down the street. Better known to you, my friend, as the Royal Flush Saloon.
What?
And the stampede is going to start the minute I walk into that den of iniquity. Adios, sinner.
An hour later, in the Lone Ranger's camp, Dan Reed was relating to the masked man and his Indian friend Tonto what had happened in Reed City immediately after the Deacon's momentous decision.
Golly, you'd have thought a tornado struck the place. The Deacon went through that saloon like a mad bull.
Me member, Deacon feller. Him plenty tough.
There's only one other man on the frontier with a reputation like the Deacon.
Oh, who's that?
They used to travel together. This man taught the Deacon just about all he knows.
Tonto savvy who you mean.
Oh, golly, I can't seem to... Hey, do you mean Parson Johnny Brimstone?
That's the man.
Golly, what a team that must have been. Parson Johnny and the Deacon working together.
You say Deacon feller have big fight in town, Dan?
He just about wrecked that saloon, Tonto. There was a big crowd standing out in front of the place. We could hear the Deacon inside roaring like a mad bull. But every 2 seconds, somebody would come flying out the door to land in the street.
Get back away from that cliff, you sinners. Get back, I say. Back.
No! Cut it out! You big overgrown lummox!
Turn back before it's too late. Turn back, sinners, and be saved.
Turn me, you Deacon! You can't come in here!
Hey, the Deacon is the fightingest sky pilot ever come down the trail.
Only one other could hold a candle to the Deacon, and that's Parson Johnny Brimstone.
Have no fear, brethren. Have no fear.
Oh! Let me alone!
Have lead on, but the Deacon will save you from going over the cliff. Sometimes when the cattle are stampeding and running wild, sometimes you have to stop a few of the leaders to turn the herd away from the cliff. You there, Pharaoh Keller, I want to speak to you.
I ain't to talk to you, mister.
You think you can come in here and wreck my place?
If I think I can. Brother, I think I can. And what's more, I think I did.
You're going to pay for it, Mr. Deacon. You're going to pay up for every bit of damage, one way or another.
Don't you threaten me, you two-bit tin horn, or I'll...
Stand where you are.
What?
Take another step this way and you'll taste hot lead, Mr. Preacher.
You managed to get to that shoulder gun very quickly, gambler. Next time, I'll remember to be as fast myself.
It won't be a next time. You're going to pay up for the damage you've done in my place and then clear out of Reed City.
Brother, I came to this sore spot on the face of the earth to save your soul. And I'm going to save your soul if I have to break your neck to do it. Now, all of you, listen to me. Whether you like it or not, there's going to be a church in Reed City, and you're going to help me to build it. If it takes a week or a month or a year or forever, there's going to be a church in Reed City.
Deacon maybe have plenty trouble, Kemosabe, from Pharaoh Keller.
Keller isn't the kind of a man who'll stand being pushed around. The deacon has made up his mind to building a church in Reed City.
Then him stay until church get built.
Or until something happens to stop him.
Golly, would Keller dare to...
To kill the deacon? Oh, I don't think so, Dan. That doesn't mean we're going to take a chance on it. Come on, Tonto.
We go to Reed City?
It'll be dark by the time we arrive.
Are you going to talk to the deacon?
Possibly. But I'm more interested in talking to Pharaoh Keller. Here, Silver. Saddle up, Tonto.
Come, Scout. Here, father.
Want to ride with us, Dan?
Do I? Oh, boy, I sure do. Here, Victor, come on, boy.
Darkness had fallen over Reed City when the three horsemen reined up in the alleyway at the rear of the hotel.
Easy now. Does the deacon live at the hotel, Dan?
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm going next door to talk with Pharaoh Keller. And Tonto, you come with me and stay outside with the horses. Go into the hotel, Dan, and locate the deacon. Then bring him to the edge of town in about 10 minutes.
Shall I tell him why? Or who wants to see him?
Just say it's someone who wants to help him with his job.
All right. I'll go around and go in the front way.
Keller's office is at the rear of the Royal Flush.
And light burning there now.
Stay as close as you can, Tonto. I may have to leave in a hurry.
Ought to be plenty close by, Kemosabe. And you be careful.
Right.
Making sure that the big silver-mounted 6 guns were free in the holsters and ready for instant action, the masked man approached the rear entrance of the Royal Flush Saloon. Inside the dimly lighted room, 3 men talked in low tones.
This maverick preacher's got a reputation for getting what he goes after, see?
Yeah, the big lummox went after me this afternoon. And the looks of your face. He got you, Race. Well, that ain't the end of it. Maybe I can't handle him with my fists.
Now, wait a minute, both of you.
I've only run into one fella in my life was as tough as this Deacon hombre. That's Parson Johnny Brimstone. Why, I've seen that fella grab a hold of...
Brimstone ain't as bad as the Deacon. He's worse.
Well, shut up and never mind about Johnny Brimstone. Ain't him we got to deal with. It's the Deacon.
All right. What do you figure to do about him?
Get rid of him. Either one way or the other. First, we give him fair warning to pull out. Then, if he decides to stay in Reed City regardless...
Then we get rid of him the other way,
Right. Hey,
man!
I'm glad you made your intentions clear.
Who are you to come busting in here like... It's a big idea. Who are you?
Let's say that I'm a friend of the Deacon's. I'm a lot more interested in seeing his plans carried out than yours.
I don't savvy. What business has a masked man got with the Deacon?
I didn't come here to answer questions. I intend to ask a few.
Yeah, sure.
And don't get ideas about that shoulder gun, Keller. You might get hurt.
The curtain falls on the first act of our Lone Ranger story. Before the next exciting scenes, please permit us to pause for just a few moments. Now to continue our story. The three men in the back room of the Royal Flush Saloon stared at the big guns held with rock-like steadiness in the hands of the Lone Ranger. And each man instinctively knew the masked man was capable of deadly split-second accuracy with the guns that faced them.
You said you wanted to ask questions. About what?
The deacon came here to build a church in Reed City. I want to know why you should stand in his way.
Why? Listen, there ain't nobody in this town wants a church to begin with. And in the second place, how long do you think I'd last around here with that deacon hombre messing things up for me?
I know how long you're going to last if anything happens to the deacon. That goes for your playmates here.
Meaning just exactly what?
I overheard what you said before I came in here. You just made up your minds to get rid of the deacon, one way or another.
You ain't changed my mind any.
And I will. If anything happens to the deacon, I'm going to hold you responsible. You understand?
Well, what do you mean by that?
Just exactly what you think I mean. So you'd better make it your business to see that nothing happens to him.
You ain't even talking sense. It ain't only me. It's everybody in Reed City. Everybody wants to get rid of the deacon. He's been a pestering the living daylights out of everybody for most a month, trying to get the money to build a church and someone to help him build it.
I'll make you a proposition, gambler, and you can take it or leave it. Either way you like.
Well, I'll listen to it first.
And tell me this. Are you so much against having a church in Reed City? Or is it the deacon that you're anxious to get rid of?
It's the deacon. I ain't got nothing against no church. But with a man like the deacon running it, why, he'd run me out of town in no time.
Then here's my proposition. You help the deacon to build his church, and I'll guarantee that he'll pull out of Reed City the day it's finished.
Yeah? You guarantee that, huh?
It's still on a take-it-or-leave-it basis, Keller.
Suppose I decide to leave it. Then what?
Then I'll help the deacon build his church, and I'll make it my business to see that he stays here to run it, and to run you out of Reed City.
You're kind of brave, masked man, holstering them guns with the three of us here.
That doesn't answer my proposal.
Oh, but this does.
Get him!
I thought you'd try something like that. But don't try it again. Keller, those shots will attract someone back here. Answer me. Do you want the church, or the church and the deacon?
All right. I'll play it that way. I'll settle for the church, and you guarantee the deacon leaves town the day it's finished.
That's a promise, gambler. Adios.
Keller, who was that hombre? I never seen such lightning with a six-gun.
Hey, what was the shooting about? Who's that fella just ran out the back way?
I'm just beginning to wonder about that masked man. I don't have to wonder. I know.
Well, who was it?
Never mind. Rakes, you and Dory, come with me.
Where are we going, Pharaoh? Who was the masked man, if you know?
Going over to the hotel to call on our friend the deacon. Well, maybe he can be persuaded to tell us where to locate that masked hombre.
But who is the masked man, Pharaoh?
The Lone Ranger, you fool. Come on.
Arriving at the edge of town, the Lone Ranger and Tonto found the boy Dan Reed waiting with the deacon.
Oh, boy, steady. Easy. Big man.
Golly, we heard 3 shots. What happened?
Great day in the morning. Young man, why didn't you tell me who these friends of yours were?
Well,
Howdy, masked man. And Tonto. Oh, these poor old eyes are glad to see you.
Glad to see you, Deacon. How?
Oh, you haven't answered the lad's question. What was the shooting we heard?
Well, Pharaoh Keller and a couple of his friends were interested in a demonstration before we could come to an agreement.
Oh, agreement? About what?
We were trying to decide whether there was going to be a church in Reed City, Deacon.
Ah, and the demonstration, was it successful?
Successful and convincing, I think.
Splendid, sir, splendid.
There was one slight concession that I had to make, Deacon, before getting Keller's promise to help finance and build the church.
Yes, and what was that, if I may ask?
Keller promised to contribute both the money and the manpower to build the church.
Ah, wonderful, wonderful, my friend.
And I, in turn, promised him that you would leave town the day the church was finished.
What? What are you saying? Do my own 2 ears deceive me, or did you... Did you say that I, the deacon, am to leave Reed City on the day the church is completed?
That's what I said, Deacon.
Oh, and I was so stupid as to think you were helping me. Ah, what an unhappy man am I. To think that even you, the Lone Ranger, would desert me in my great hour of need. To think that...
Just a moment, Deacon. Which do you think is needed most in Reed City? You or the church you wanted to build? Now, let me tell you the plan I have in mind. Then you can decide whether you're willing to leave or not.
Willing to leave? Of course I'm not willing to leave. How could you even expect me to listen to such a proposal?
But I do expect you to listen, Deacon. And then go on back to your hotel and think it over. And, Tonto. Just in case the Deacon should have, unexpected company at the hotel, I want you to stay in town with him.
Tonto be glad to help him, if company comes.
I tell you, I will not listen to anything you have to say, if it means I must leave my church here on the very day it is completed. What sort of proposition were you going to make?
Just this, Deacon.
It was late when the deacon returned to his room at the Reed City Hotel. As the big man walked down the second-floor hallway, the Indian Tonto walked noiselessly at his side. The two men exchanged a brief glance as the deacon fitted the key into the lock. Tonto nodded and stepped to one side, flattening himself against the wall as the deacon opened the door. Crossing the room in the dim light from the hallway, the big man struck a match and lighted the oil lamp on the table.
All right, Deacon, we got a little powwow to make with you.
Well, Mr. Keller, and the other equally prominent sinners, Rhynes and Dory. Good evening, gentlemen. And what would you like to powwow about?
Keep 'em covered, Rhynes. Dory, close that door.
Sure. You come.
Hey, wait a minute.
Come quick. You not dropping. I'll help you.
All right.
The engine, the masked man's partner.
Sit down, gentlemen. Sit down. And we'll proceed with the powwow you mentioned. Just a moment. Well, Brother Keller, you made a bargain with the masked man. Do you intend to keep your bargain? Or would you like me to return to your place tomorrow and finish the job I started today?
You promise to leave Reed City as soon as the church is finished?
I promise.
Deacon, you all right in there?
All right, it's a deal. We'll start the job immediately, tomorrow morning.
Wonderful, Brother Keller, wonderful.
What's going on in here, Deacon? We heard shooting.
Brother, I have some wonderful news for you. Wonderful news. Oh, the shooting, that was merely in celebration of the wonderful news.
What? Keller, what are you doing in the deacon's room? With you, Rhynes and Dory?
Mr. Keller, Mr. Rhynes, and Mr. Dory are my guests. And you shall be the first to know that these public-spirited citizens of your fair city have agreed to furnish the money and the manpower to provide a house of worship in Reed City.
What? Keller, is that on the level?
Sure is, and you're witness to one thing.
Yeah, what thing?
The deacon agrees to pull out of Reed City and stay out as soon as we get the church finished.
Oh, so that's it. Well, no offense, Deacon, but I reckon it's a good deal all around.
A wonderful deal, brothers, a wonderful deal. At long last, the stampede is going to be turned, and you will be saved from going over the cliff, plunging yourselves head first into the bottomless pit.
The very next morning, the citizenry of Reed City turned out en masse to watch the beginning of the new church. And for 4 days, Pharaoh Keller devoted every minute of his time to the job at hand. The gambler's only thought was to get the job over with as soon as possible, so that he might have the pleasure of watching the deacon leave town.
Brethren, what a beautiful work you're doing. A place for the saving of souls, a place to worship, a place to give thanks.
Hey, Deacon, how about more work from you and less preaching?
And where our work is, brethren, there let our joy be. And let us remember that blessed is he who has found his work. Let him ask no other blessing. Hard work is a noble thing, brethren, a noble thing, a glorious thing.
And shut up and help me finish this doorway. I don't want all the blessings off this job.
late afternoon on the fourth day. Farrell Keller, along with every henchman that had been able to round up in Reed City, stood across the street from the finished building. Every man in the crowd had unfamiliar aches and pains and blisters on his hands. And every man had a smile of victory on his face as they watched the deacon come out of the hotel carrying 2 big carpet bags, ready to leave Reed City on the 4 o'clock stage.
I ain't never been so glad in all my life to see a fella leave town.
He sure was a rip snorter. He's keeping his word and pulling out, just like he promised.
My arms didn't ache so much, I'd almost be willing to shake hands with the deacon, standing here watching him leave.
Here comes the stage. Here comes the folks right now. And here goes the deacon.
Ah, brethren, if only I could express my happiness. If only I could let you know how happy that beautiful house of worship makes me.
Well, you ain't such a bad fella, Deacon. But at the same time, I want to say for every one of these people present, you ain't half as happy looking at that church as we are to see you get on that stage and clear out.
Thank you. I leave you with my heartiest wishes for your speedy salvation, brethren. I got a hand or two, you deacon. You and the masked man for getting the church built.
Yeah, the deacon sure is a fighting man when it comes to getting something done. The toughest frontier preacher I ever seen in my life, next to Parson Johnny Brimstone. And hey, look!
I'll be grandfather to a horned toad. Look who's getting off that stage.
Parson Johnny Brimstone. That's who it is, brethren. It's Parson Johnny Brimstone, come to take over your beautiful new church.
Greetings and bless you, sinners.
Take charge of the congregation, Parson Johnny. The deacon is leaving.
Johnny Brimstone will take charge.
Hey, he's got a gun.
Look yonder, you sinners. That iron bell hanging in the churchyard. That beautiful iron bell. When you hear that bell ring, brethren, it means come to meeting. Come to meeting, brothers, and let Parson Johnny Brimstone drive away your sins.
The story you have just heard is a copyrighted feature of the Lone Ranger Incorporated.
This has been a presentation of OTRWesterns.com, and we hope you enjoyed. Please take some time to like and rate our shows in your favorite podcast application. Follow us on Facebook by going to OTRWesterns.com/Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel by going to OTRWesterns.com/YouTube. And send us an email, podcast@OTRWesterns.com. You can call and leave us a voicemail, 707-986-8739. This episode is copyright under the Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike copyright. For more information, go to OTRWesterns.com/copyright. Have a great day, and thanks for listening.